We've all heard the advice. If you don't like your life, just reinvent yourself. It sounds inspiring, but it might be the most incomplete advice out there because reinvention, the way most people mean it, is really just putting on a mask, copying whatever's trending, forcing yourself to fit somewhere where you were never meant to fit. I'm sitting next to an abandoned road today. It's been abandoned since the 60s. And I was told last week that if they wanted to reuse it again, they could repave the whole thing tomorrow. Fresh blacktop, brand new lines. It's just a surface problem, but it really isn't. If they don't fix all the ground underneath, all the same cracks would come right back through by next winter. Because when the ground underneath shifts, nothing you do on top of it holds. That's reinvention. It's surface work on a foundation nobody ever looked at. So today, I'm going to show you why surface level reinvention keeps failing and what actually lasts instead. Look, how many versions of yourself have you buried by now? There may have been the disciplined version, the confident version, maybe the gym version, or the version who was finally going to get it together. Most of them made it a few weeks. Some made it a few months. Then one day they were just gone. You became the old version of yourself again, and you remembered how it started. Maybe it was a Monday, or maybe it was the first day of a new year. You had a new plan, a new routine, and a new story you were finally ready to believe about yourself. And for a while it held. Hell, maybe even it held for a little longer than usual, but eventually, with no reason, the old version of you took the wheel again. And after enough times, you start drawing conclusions about yourself. Maybe I just don't have enough discipline. Maybe I don't have what other people have. Maybe change is something that works for everyone else, or maybe I'm the problem. Trust me, I know that feeling because I spent years believing that exact same thing. Every failed habit, every failed fresh start, every attempt to become someone different. This time I swore the version of me was finally going to be gone just to become him again. And what finally changed wasn't learning how to reinvent myself. It was understanding why all my reinventions kept falling apart. And here's what no one tells you. No one tells you what has to happen before a reinvention can actually last. No one tells you how an identity gets built in the first place. So people try to become someone new without ever understanding the person they already are being. And when the old patterns come back, they call it failure. But let me ask you this. What if it wasn't failure? What if you're doing the work at the wrong level? What if the problem wasn't your effort, but your starting point? Because for most of my life, I drew the only conclusions I could that I was broken. Something in me just couldn't connect. But here's what I eventually understood. I wasn't broken at all. I was trying to change something I didn't yet understand. And it took me a long time and plenty of failed attempts, trust me, more than I ever want to admit to finally realize that I had it all backwards. The change that I tried to create didn't fail because I was weak. It failed because everything I was trying to do kept aiming at the wrong level. So I want to say this again. The change didn't fail because I was weak. And let me tell you where I learned this. It wasn't in the classroom. It wasn't in the workbook. I learned it at the bottom. I rebuilt who I was from inside of a prison cell. I learned it from just about every way a life could fall apart. Today, I've got 27 years clean and sober now. But I only got here by failing at this more times than I could count. So when I tell you that reinvention by itself doesn't work, understand something. I'm not talking down to you. I'm talking about me first. So let me tell you exactly what I was up against. Here's everything I tried. I tried willpower. White knuckle, grit your teeth willpower. It works right up until it doesn't. It works until you get tired. And let me tell you, everybody gets tired. I tried to change a place, a new city, new scene, new start. But the problem was, no matter where I went, I brought the same person to the new place. I tried just stopping the behavior. And hell, I had some success with that. I'd stop whatever it was I was trying to change, and then that same pattern would just find another way to show up as another version of the same me. I tried motivation, and every time I got that surge you get the night you finally decide that this time's going to be different. And motivation, well, it's great. It's great at starting something, but useless at keeping it going. Every time I mistook how intense the feeling was for how long the change would last. And every time the feeling faded, the way feelings do, and the old me, well, he was still standing right there. And I tried affirmations. I tried telling myself that better story in the mirror. Now, the instinct behind that one is right. How you see yourself really does shape what you become. But you can't make a new belief just by saying a nicer one over the old one, while the old one still sits underneath unexamined and still running the show. Because at some point, some part of you knows you're just performing. And believe me, that part, it keeps its own counsel. Look at everything I tried. You'll see the patterns. It's hard to miss. Willpower, a change of place, stopping the behavior, the motivation, the affirmation. Every single one worked on the surface, but not one of them reached down to the actual beliefs about who I was, and those beliefs were in the driver's seat the whole time from deep inside. So the patterns always came back. I really want to stress this. None of this was about me failing. It was about me doing things at the wrong level and in the wrong order, because here's how a self actually gets built. Remember, I told you nobody explains this part, and here it is. And I want you to watch this, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Something happens to you. That's an experience. Then your brain makes a meaning out of it. That's an interpretation. And the meaning, not the event, is where it all turns. That meaning becomes a belief. The belief starts driving your behavior. And you run that behavior so long that one day it stops feeling like something you do and starts feeling like the person you are. Experience, interpretation, belief, pattern, identity. Then the twist, it does the cruelest thing of all. Once that identity forms, it goes looking for proof that it's right. And let me tell you, you know the voice. It's the one that whispers you'll find out the minute things start going right. That voice isn't describing your life, it's collecting proof. Think about it for a minute. Think about the guy who's positive he's all on his own. He never asks for help, so he never finds out people would have shown up. His silence hands him the proof every single time. By the time you're grown, you've heard it about yourself 1,000 times. And every time, it landed like it was a fact. What you never caught was that you're the one producing the proof. So now we can name exactly why reinvention slips. Reinvent yourself tells you to install a new self on top of an old one that you never took apart or even looked at. It's what I like to call the affirmation trap, just scaled up to a whole personality. It's like painting a room, but you're painting over the holes and the rot. You can't build a new identity on an old one you never dismantled. Most people who try to change themselves and fail, well, they're not failing for lack of effort. It wasn't lazy, and neither are you. They failed because they started in the middle. They reached for the new self because doing the work that would have made it last, well, they skipped the foundation. Not out of laziness, but because reaching identity directly is slow and unglamorous work that doesn't fit into a slogan or a 30-day challenge. When I finally started tracing my own patterns, what struck me wasn't a single one of them. It was that they had all been built the same way, and rebuilding them, it turned out, had to move through the same stages in roughly the same order every time. And there's 8 of them. And the day I wrote them down, I noticed that the first letter spelled a word. The word was identity. The whole thing, the process was about. And I promise you, I didn't plan it. It stopped me cold when I saw it. You don't have to memorize any of this. I just want you to feel the shape of it and see where the advice you've been given drops you off and leaves you stranded. The first 3 phases are about understanding, just seeing what's really there. Imprint. That's seeing what shaped you. The version of you that got handed to you before you had any say in it. Deconstruct. That's seeing what you concluded because of what shaped you. The stuff you decided about yourself back then that you're still living by now without ever once checking if it's even true. Expose. That's seeing what's still running you underneath, out of sight, the stuff you can't see because you're not looking at it. You're looking out through it. Nothing changes yet in these first three. You're just turning the lights on. The next two are the turn. We have nullify. That's taking the power back from the old fears that earned it once and don't deserve it anymore. And there's transcend. That's turning toward who you actually want to become. And for a lot of people, that's the first time in years they faced forward at all. That's the turning point of the whole thing, where you stop looking backward and stop facing forward. Then there's the last three, you build where you build and install. That's becoming that new person. And then we have the last three, and these are where you build. We have install. That's becoming that new person, one ordinary action at a time. Not by feeling like them first. By doing what they do before the feeling ever shows up. The feeling comes last. It always does. And you have test. Finding out if it holds when life pushes back. And let me tell you, life always pushes back. Then there's yield. That's the day it stops being a performance and you just become you, the person you always knew you could be. Understanding, then the turn, then the building. And now notice where reinvent yourself drops you off and leaves you stranded. It drops you at install. Sometimes at transcend if you're lucky. Build a new you, chase the vision, while imprint, deconstruct, expose, and nullify never happened. You're being told to build on ground you never cleared. That's not a discipline problem. It's an order problem. Now, I'm not going to walk you through the actual work today, the exercises, the questions you sit with, the real digging in each phase. That's the how. And the how is the work itself. It lives in the workbooks. Walked one phase at a time because honestly, it just can't be done from a video. What I wanted to leave you with today is the why. The reason your reinventions keep slipping was never that you were broken. It's that you were working the surface when the whole problem was underneath. You've changed before. You already know you're capable of it. The problem was never your capacity. It was where you were working and the order you were working in. You were never broken. You were built. And usually under conditions you never chose. And I want to be honest, what was built once, well, it can be rebuilt again. This time in the right order. So this is the type of content I'll be bringing every week. If something here landed for you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and maybe share it with someone who needs to hear this today. And I'll see you in the next one.